One Piece chapter 994 was a big time Yamato picture. After she was kind of put to the side a little bit so the scabbards could get a little shine, now she's back in the spotlight. The Yamato for Straw Hat train is up and running again. And honestly for me this chapter, Yamato's big moment wasn't really announcing themselves, it was more so showcasing their strength. And we will get into that in this review, but for this chapter review, we are starting at the top. One Piece chapter 994 titled also known as Yamato. Of course this ties in with Yamato's big moment later on, but before we get into all that, we do once again have the Capone Bege cover story, but it's the last one. Guys, it's finally over, okay? We could be done talking about it. I got just sick and tired of like complaining about it at a point. I was like, I don't even want to just sound mad about it because I don't even care about it anymore. But finally, this is the last final chapter of the cover story here. We see Capone and the family drifting off from the Marines. We get the fin stamp to let us really know that it's finally over. I wonder if like Oda has been watching people's videos and reading the comments of like people reacting to this Capone Bege cover story and how Pound came back alive and everybody was pissed. Maybe he kind of figured like, oh, people don't really like this. Let me make sure that they know that this is finally over. But yeah, personally, I just didn't care about the cover story anymore. And in this chapter, I don't know what it really added to the story. It kind of just showed them leaving the scene. You probably could have ended it last chapter, to be honest. But I guess the one question I have is where are they going now that we've spent so much time focusing on this cover story? Does it actually mean something? Before I brought up the idea that maybe we don't really see Capone much for the rest of the story and he doesn't really return to the story in a main way, and like maybe we'll just skip around in the final flashbacks and everything and see where they are and how they're doing, but they won't really get involved again. Because Capone's story's kind of wrapped up. They got their big happy family, they've escaped, they're safe, they could just go out and explore and be free. Some people have also brought up the idea that they're kind of allies now because Pound, Lola, and Chiffon are all part of the same family now and they all like the Straw Hats, so maybe Capone will serve as an ally for a final war against the world government or something. I could definitely see it going either way. One thing I did forget to mention about the chapter title is that some people have pointed out that previously every single Straw Hat has had their own chapter title dedicated to them. Brook's one is kind of up in the air because it never like announces Brook's name. It kind of just refers to him as like the humming musician and stuff. But some people use that to kind of point out like, hey, maybe Yamato is gonna be a Straw Hat because of that connection. But at the same time, others have counted like, hey, Rebecca also got her own chapter title. So yeah, the chapter title doesn't really add or take away anything to my belief of Yamato becoming a Straw Hat. It kind of just reinforces what we already expected, which is Yamato is going to play a pretty big role in the latter half of the Wano arc here, and we're gonna get some information on them. And that's one of the reasons I was so excited about the potential of Yamato becoming a Straw Hat, because I knew we were definitely going to focus on their backstory because they're the son slash daughter of Kaido, so I knew we were gonna get some serious story and development focused in on Yamato, so I was really curious on what that is. So this chapter and this chapter title in general kind of just reinforces like, hey, Yamato is gonna have their own little development arc for sure. How that story turns out is really going to determine whether or not Yamato becomes a Straw Hat. But moving on with the story, this chapter we pick up right where we left off last chapter with Kaido versus the Scabbards. Of course, Kiku, her arm came off, and we weren't too sure how much damage she actually took because it was kind of from a side perspective. But this chapter we kind of find out that she obviously lost the arm, the blade is snapped, she's out of commission essentially, but she's actually not like near death or anything severe like that. I actually really love how the Scabbards reacted in this chapter. I definitely did not expect it. I thought we were gonna get like Izo flipping out. I was like, oh my god, Kiku, are you dead? Whatever, Kaido, I'm coming after you. Start shooting bullets at Kaido, and then Kaido just like decapitates Izo or something. But that didn't happen. Izo calmly goes to Kiku and starts bandaging up the wound, and then Kinemon lights his sword on fire and then just walks over to Kiku and cauterizes the wound to stop it from infecting and bleeding. And then Kiku is just like, yeah, I'm still good to go. And she's smiling, which is just such a badass moment for Kiku there. And I just love the total attitude of the Scabbards here, just showing like they are ready to die for this. They're fully expected to take casualties and damage like this, and they're just ready for war essentially. And Kaido once again respects their tenacity, saying like, I really like that tenacity, and he kind of calls back to Roger and Whitebeard saying that's why Roger and Whitebeard like you, Samurai, as well. And then bouncing off that, Kaido has an incredibly interesting line where he kind of talks about developing your strength through battles. So the official translation actually changed this line pretty drastically. Instead of it really talking about growing strength through time, Kaido is more so talking about how he envies Whitebeard and Roger and how they died. This ties in way more with the theme of Kaido's dream of dying a grand death like Whitebeard and like Roger, and really this leads to that conversation we've been having about will Kaido die and will he achieve his dream if he does die. I don't think this really changes my opinion of whether or not Kaido will die, because I don't think he will get the grand death that he is seeking. There's a theme in One Piece of the weak does not get to choose how they die, and although I don't think Kaido is weak, I think this is going to apply to him. He's not going to die in this crazy war that he wants to create with Big Mom. He's going to die before that at the hands of some samurai and some rookies before he could really even take that step to create that big war. So in my opinion here, while this line here definitely re-emphasizes that Kaido's dream is to die a grand death, I don't think it takes away from the theory that he will actually die by the end of Wano. It does make me wonder if the Scabbards are gonna have their own Haki blooming moment to kind of clap back a little at Kaido. As Kaido is getting serious here, he just turned into his human form, which seems like his stronger form. We saw that in the battle against Luffy as well, where Luffy just pummeled his dragon form and then he turned into human form and just absolutely devastated Luffy. And now it looks like he's getting serious again and turning into his human form and about to throw down. I'm guessing he has another level of his hybrid form, which will be his strongest form, which he'll likely show off against Luffy. But yeah, I'm definitely curious if the Scabbards have a little bit left in the tank here to kind of clap back. We definitely haven't seen the most out of Ashura Doji and Denjiro yet. Definitely two of the strongest Scabbards, so I'm definitely expecting more from them. After Kaido's line, Kinema also says it would be a dishonor dying to you, which is kind of ironic because this whole time he's been talking about dying in this battle, so I don't know if he's kind of expecting to die a dishonorable death or something. But I guess in this whole time he's been saying if we're able to defeat Kaido and we die, it's fine, it'll be an honorable death. Speaking of death, I do expect the Scabbards to suffer some casualties soon. Now, the tone of the war definitely hasn't shifted as I expected to. I thought after Kiku's arm flew off, we were really gonna start seeing the Scabbards really go out one by one or really start to get defeated, but we don't get any action in this chapter, so I don't know how that's gonna turn out. I hope it's not we just jump away from this scene and then later on Luffy gets to the top of the dome and we find out some people have died. Off-paneling the rest of this fight would be really, really whack. I would still want to see more from Ashura Doji and Denjiro. I think this is the most exciting action right now in Wano, and if we leave it, that would be just really not good, to be honest with you. I don't know how Oda would pull that off, but to be honest, I would be kind of mad if we just jump away from this action. I do think the Scabbards need to suffer some consequences here, and I expect that they will, but we'll just have to see how the action carries out from here. Next, we jump to Luffy, Jinbe, and Sanji. I know last chapter in my chapter review, I kind of roasted this scene saying it was spending way too much time here and we were wasting a lot of time, and in this chapter, I kind of let that go a little bit. I was kind of expecting it a little more this chapter. I still don't love it. It just kind of completely takes away the tone of the war. And listen, I love these Straw Hat moments. Like every chapter has some comedy aspects. I usually love that. But just with how intense things got with the Scabbards versus Kaido, jumping to this scene where jokes are being made, it just feels kind of, it just takes me out of it a little bit. I don't know about you guys. Let me know if that does it for you. But for me, jumping to this scene is one of the first times where comedy just doesn't work completely. It's still kind of funny, the moments of like Sanji talking about, hey, why aren't you mentioning me and you're mentioning these guys and these gifters this time. It was Oda's just having a blast drawing these guys like we got a giraffe neck growing out of somebody's back and then the other dude is literally spawning out of a chicken's ass. Like this is, Oda's just goofing around with this at this point. It's funny too because these are two smile devil fruits of zones we already seen before with Kaku and his giraffe and Tamago with his chicken zone. These smiles definitely got the short end of the stick. But yeah, this scene here is cool, it's whatever. I thought it was kind of funny and it did take away from the tone a little bit, but I wasn't mad at it. Once again, we're getting a progression of these three. They're now on level 1 and listen, I don't know, it's kind of dragging it out a little bit. I know Oda's trying to get something big by chapter 1000, and by the way it's going now, by like chapter 999 they'll get to the top of the dome, or maybe it's 1000 depending on if there's a 6th floor like in between or something. Feels kind of dragged out to me in my opinion, but I think we'll definitely see more action. It definitely won't be just Luffy, Sanji, and Jinbe fighting new weird gifters every single chapter. I'm expecting them to probably run into Queen or King, and then one of them have to kind of split off, and that will kind of set up Jinbe and Sanji's matchup, and then Luffy eventually will make it to the top of the dome, either with just one other person or by himself. Another thing to point out is Jinbe and Sanji is kind of getting compared here, or as perception wise they're kind of seen as equals, and we kind of saw that a little bit back in Fishman Island as well, where they had to team up for their matchup. The dynamic of the monster trio turning into Luffy's 3 commanders is a video I'm probably going to be making soon, so let me know your thoughts on that. But yeah, after that we jump back to the live floor where Queen is, and this chapter Queen was really getting on his super villain laugh. Like the amount of times he laughed of like it was insane. I did that multiple times during my live reaction. Maybe he was really feeling the spirit of Halloween. But yeah, it's a chaotic war out there. The ice demons are spreading even more, and Queen's just having a blast witnessing all of this. Even his own beast pirates are getting caught up, and they're like, Queen, what's going on? Why are you doing this? And he just doesn't give a damn about them, honestly. He's like, you guys are just made to smile and laugh. You're essentially just fodder. I don't give a damn about you. We do actually get some emotional scenes here of, like, first off, Omasa, one of the samurai, he gets infected and he's kind of like, kill me off before I fully turn. I don't want to be wasted. And then you have Hyogoro coming in. It's like, don't worry. Listen, if we have no way of saving you, I'll kill you. But right now, don't give up on your life so fast. Even on the beast pirate side, you're seeing some people that were brothers. One of them gets infected and they're like, why did we do this? Why did we join the beast pirates? And I think these scenes are really emphasizing like, yo, this is a big deal. People might die here, and we do find out that people are going to die, as Queen reveals, like after an hour everybody will die. And Chopper, being the doctor that he is, does step up and kind of take charge a little bit, and he kind of figured out like, oh, I'm not really so much worried about the ice demon aspect of it, of them infecting people, but how much they're putting strains on their bodies. They can't handle that. They might die as a result. And then of course later on, Queen does confirm that is a fact. So as I mentioned multiple times already, Chopper, you gotta step up and really take action here. And he does take the lead, and he says, hey, I can't really produce this on the spot and then produce it in vast quantities that easily. But we do know Queen is the creator of this plague, this disease. He must have an antibody on him, so let's go after him and get that. And lo and behold, Queen does have that single antibody, but then he throws it to Apu and then like essentially just creates his own game show out of it. He says, brother Apu, you now have the one and only antibody to this disease, and well, everybody's gonna be going after you now, and if you give it up, you're gonna be on the chopping block. Essentially, like, we're gonna kick you out of the beast pirates and we're gonna execute you. So you have to survive for this hour or you're gonna die, and during this whole hour, people are gonna be chasing after you for the antibody. The contrast in dramatic scenes and then Queen just making like a game show out of this, I actually think it works really well here to kind of see and portray how Queen is just a madman, just like he wants to have fun. He doesn't give a damn about anybody. But yeah, Apu now has the antibody supposedly. I actually don't believe that's the one and only. That I don't feel like Queen would give that up that easily. It might be like we finally defeat Apu and find out like, oh, that's not the actual antibody and Queen actually still has it. But yeah, right now it seems like the only antibody is with Apu, and Zoro is the one going after Apu, so maybe we'll get a little bit of a rematch here of Zoro versus Apu. I do feel like there's a chance Zoro gets lost and ends up somewhere else. I don't think Apu's gonna be his main matchup in this war. Now, anybody that's been watching my videos for a while, you already know I'm a big fan of Brook versus Apu, and you know, Brook is the fastest one out of all the Straw Hats, so he could easily chase after Apu if Zoro gets lost, and maybe that matchup happens that way. I really just want this matchup to happen. I do wonder, like, what's Chopper and Robin and Brook gonna do in the meantime if they aren't going after Apu as well? Like, right now we just see them holding up sticks. They can't like touch the ice demons because then they'll get affected as well. Maybe they'll try to restrain these guys and keep it in order, but I want to see them like do other things as well. Of course, Robin, I want to see her fight Black Maria, although these two are kind of separated right now. But yeah, I like how Chopper took the lead in this chapter, but I want to see him do more. But finally, we get to the final scene of this chapter, the Yamato scene, which was the focal point in the chapter in my opinion. And the scene actually opens up with Shinobu asking Yamato for help. And it's actually funny here because I forgot about this. They don't know who Yamato is. They don't know that Yamato is the son/daughter of Kaido. They just think this is some random like weirdo that's super strong strong and claimed to be Kazuki Oden. But yeah, Shinobu asks Yamato for help here, and Yamato actually reveals they were at Kazuki Oden's execution, how they were inspired, and especially they also heard about Shinobu's little speech about how Oden was sacrificing himself all these years to protect the people, and that's how Yamato got inspired. We do also get a quick flashback panel of Yamato at Oden's execution, and shout out to people who like pointed that out beforehand in Oden's execution. People already noticed that the similar person wearing a similar robe as Yamato was there before. But the big reveal here is Yamato actually went to Oden Castle after Oden's execution to try to save Momonosuke. And then Yamato actually goes on to say they were not strong enough to help Momonosuke, and they could only just watch on as Kaido essentially strangled Momonosuke over the building. So clearly Yamato wasn't able to do anything back then. They were also 8 years old, so I'm not expecting them to do anything against Kaido. But this is very interesting to me because now there's an extra point of motivation of they weren't strong enough back then, so for these past 20 years, Yamato might have been training as well. And like we knew Yamato was strong off the bat of what they did to Ulti and then them clashing with Luffy kind of to a standstill. Also them being the son daughter of Kaido as well, we just kind of expected them to be strong. But how strong do you guys actually think Yamato is? I'm actually leaning stronger than Tobiropo because based off of what we've seen, I think Yamato bodies Ulti. I shouldn't say bodies because Ulti did come back strong and was absolutely fine, but I think Yamato is gonna defeat Ulti based off of what we've seen without much difficulty, and based off of how you perceive Ulti's strength within the Tobiropo, you might say that's not a big feat, but I think all the Tobiropo are relatively equal. So if we're putting Yamato a step above that, you're really putting them at the same level as the commanders. Now, how they fit in within the commanders of Jack Queen King, it's hard to judge it individually, but I do think they are above the Tobiropo at that commander level, especially what they showcase in this chapter as well. First off, they just tank a bunch of explosions. They don't dodge, they don't parry. It's kind of funny because Yamato is claiming to be Oden, but they fight exactly like Kaido, so they don't care about all this damage, they just straight up absorb it instead. And then afterwards, Yamato swings the club and a guy like 20 yards away just gets blasted. So this is some sort of projectile attack, but it's something we've never seen before. Like, we've seen projectile attacks like Zoro's pound cannon or Phoenix, whatever you want to call it, but we could see those slashes, right? We could see those slashes in the air going towards the opponent. But here, Yamato swings, we don't see anything go, and then the guy 20 yards away just gets attacked. So that either means the attack is completely invisible, or it's so fast that we weren't able to see it. And Sasaki's reaction here is really interesting because he shook. After just this simple attack that he saw, he was completely taken aback. He's like, whoa, okay, I didn't know Yamato was that strong. That's what that reaction told me. And Sasaki is no joke. He's one of the Tobiropo members, and if he's like actually worried about Yamato here, definitely tells me that Yamato is probably stronger than him. We'll still have to see this action here. I'm sure they'll duke it out a little bit. Sasaki might transform into his ancient Zoan. But yeah, what Yamato's showcasing here with their attacks is really intriguing. I do wonder if Kaido has a similar attack. That could be a nice way of paralleling it. Maybe next chapter we see Kaido use that exact attack on the scabbards. But yeah, I'm definitely excited to see more of Yamato's strength to kind of figure out exactly how strong they are. Them fighting against Sasaki, I think, will be more of a skirmish before hopefully Frankie shows up. I'm still holding on hope to that matchup as well. I do feel like Yamato has to go to the top of the dome for that Kaido confrontation to really bring in some of that relationship and what it's all about, and also hopefully lead to a flashback of their past. Maybe we'll find out more about Yamato's mom and like their childhood and all that. I also think the symbolism of Yamato wanting to save Momonosuke in the past and also them protecting Momonosuke here could lead to Yamato becoming like a personal bodyguard of Momonosuke when he becomes Shogun of Wano. Now, as somebody who believes that Momonosuke is not gonna become a Straw Hat, that kind of doesn't help my case of Yamato becoming a Straw Hat. Now, I guess you could spin it in a way where they both become a Straw Hat and Yamato wants to protect Momonosuke. Silvers, if you're watching this, I'm sure you're super happy about that. But yeah, it could go that way, but it could also just be neither of them become Straw Hats and they both stay behind in Wano. But yeah, overall, I'm definitely very intrigued by Yamato's strength. Let me know in the comments, how strong do you think Yamato actually is? But for One Piece chapter 994, I think it's another solid chapter. It was was nothing crazy. I liked the Yamato moment. I really liked the Kaido scabbard stuff in the beginning as well. The rest of the chapter was just okay to me. Moments there here and there felt like it dragged, felt like it took away from the tone a little bit. I still liked the chapter overall. I thought it was a solid chapter. I haven't been given predictions really because I honestly there's so much going on. I don't really know what we're gonna see next chapter. Maybe we'll get a little update on the Big Mom Marco situation. That could like fill us in a little bit. I also want to see more out of Law and Kid and Killer. Like, what are they up to? I'm expecting them to slowly arrive to the top of the dome as well, but give us an update. I just want to see more of those guys, especially Kid. He needs more shine. But yeah, what did you guys think of One Piece chapter 994? What do you think is gonna happen in One Piece chapter 995? Let me know in the comments below. But as always, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did enjoy, please hit that like button. Helps a lot with the YouTube algorithm. And if you want to keep up to date with this channel, you gotta hit that subscribe button and hit the bell to join the crew as well. The King Pirates crew is now over 6,370 members. If you want to interact with your fellow crew members, the King Pirates Discord is linked in the description below. Be sure to follow me on Twitter. I'm DKing4, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.